den Zähnen, zwischen den Lippen, die Zunge küsst hervor.
Okay, this video here is a little bit optional. I'm not going to be quizzing you about it in class or anything, but it's some stuff that's good to know. We're talking about magic quotes and array map. Okay, so little background here. Let's go to look at some forms, and I'm going to go up and look at our original form where we didn't sanitize any inputs. And what is your request? Hi, and we can go ahead and put in a script tag, and inside the script tag we can say alert and script tag bye. Okay, I'm just going to submit that. Now this we've already seen and understand this. We're not sanitizing. That angle bracket is going to get put. The server is going to send back a HTML document that includes the angle bracket script in the middle of the HTML. My browser is going to see that and run it because it's a JavaScript. Okay, so I go ahead and submit, and I get this little window here. PHP Radford EDU says, haha. And actually, interesting, it comes up twice, along with it must be tough to seek hi. Interesting, it must be tough to seek hi, and then that script came up. And then after I clicked on it, then I went ahead and resumed the rest of the page there. Okay. And there were some different threads, so the timing was a little bit off, but, or put it this way, the order things appeared was a little bit delayed between the two windows. But yeah, that's bad. We ran that script tag. And of course, when you do a show source, we'll see that, that there was that script tag, and that's why my browser did that. Actually, there's a side question. Why did that window come up twice? Oh, because what I do in form here, I also print the array underscore post. And so it got printed here again. That same stuff was embedded in there when I do a view source. The array post is hi script. Okay. So great. I printed that field from the post array twice, which is why the script executed twice. So, solution, go ahead and sanitize the input. Now here's the little wrinkle though. What if it's the days of the early web and you fear that people aren't sanitizing their input? And maybe it's not even just the script tags you're worried about SQL injection. People are inserting to the database like we will be in the future. Well here, if you're writing Apache, here is, or actually it's PHP, here's the wrong solution. It's a solution, but it's engineering-wise, it's placed at the wrong place in the whole chain, but it's been done. PHP said, hey, I'm a server. I'm going to go and, or Apache says I'm a server. I'm going to go and start a PHP process. I'm going to take all the key value data in the post data from the HTTP packet, put them into an array called underscore post. PHP says, hey, yeah, you're setting up this array underscore post for me. Anything you try to put in post that had a tick mark in it, an apostrophe, I'm going to go ahead and what the characters that I actually put into the string, the actual character, instead of just putting a tick mark character at that place in the string, I'm going to put in two characters, a backslash followed by a tick mark. And what does that do? That means if you're doing something idiotic like this form here, what will get printed out? Hi, angle bracket script alert. Again, I just printed out what was inside underscore post, so there would be a backslash tick mark here, and suddenly this would not be valid JavaScript, and the JavaScript wouldn't run. So I think in an earlier video I actually tried doing something like this, but it didn't run, and that's why. It turns out that was one of two reasons why it didn't run. Okay, this behavior is now deprecated. If you go ahead and look magic quotes in PHP, it sort of says we used to do this, here's why. But it's, again, they realize it's the wrong way to solve that problem. The problem should be people who are generating these HTML pages should be doing the sanitizing. People putting into a database, they should be sanitizing. As it is, I now need to take the stuff from my form and I need to remove those slashes that got inserted if I want to know what the user really typed. Okay, so yeah, just that because they put the solution in the wrong place, It causes me to have to do extra work in the olden days. You won't run into this if you're using a modern PHP installation. PHP Radford EDU is not a modern PHP installation. Any tick marks that the user enters, when it gets into your post array, will have a backslash character in front of the tick mark character. Okay, a literal backslash character followed by a literal tick character. That string will contain 2 characters inside of it. Okay, don't confuse this, by the way, with when you're in a PHP program making string literals, how backslashes work. That's a sort of different issue. Here we're saying, hey, that backslash already got inserted into the characters that were in the string. Okay, so if magic quotes is turned on, you'll see backslashes in there. I think a previous video maybe even saw that. What should we do if we're running on an old PHP installation like we are here? Well, I guess every time I grab something out of post, I should call the function that undoes those slashes, okay? It's called strip slashes. That's actually a reasonable name. Yeah, so maybe in my PHP code, every time I go and say echo post a favorite color, not only should I do an HTML special chars on the string, but then I should also be calling strip slashes on it. Okay, well that's fine, but now take my same PHP code and move it to a modern PHP machine that's not adding the magic quotes, not adding those backslashes. Then I get confused because if the user had entered backslashes, I'll be removing them because nothing was inserted. Oh no. So if I want my code to run the same, even if I move to another machine that doesn't have the same server policy about adding magic quotes, or even if PHP Radford EDU next week changes their policy so that they're not adding magic quotes, I want my script to still work. So what do you want to do for that? You want to go and basically say, have an if statement. If the server's adding magic quotes, then call strip slashes on the thing I'm grabbing from post. So it's a little if statement here. And we actually have this down on our page. How do you ask if the server is adding magic quotes? Well, so they added this into the PHP interface. Get magic quotes GPC. GPC for get, post, and something else that escapes me. Anyway, so this seems, hey, okay, if you're adding magic quotes, then go and call strip slashes. In fact, you might even say, rather than do this every single time I access my post array 25 times through my PHP page, maybe at the very top I should just go through and say, hey, this array post, if slashes, if the server would have added any slashes, let's go through post and remove it from everything. Okay, so you can have a little loop up at the top of your program that says, starts off with this if statement, if get magic quotes GPC, then loop through post and call strip slashes on every string that you find. Okay, we're getting to the second interesting item here, array map. It's pretty common that we want to go and have an array, and I want to call some function like strip slashes on everything, every value in the array. That just happens a lot. You can write a loop. We know how to do this. We can write a loop every single time we come across that problem. But you know, it's such a common problem. They built in something called array map. Okay, array map is a function where you give it the array that you want to loop over, and you give it, hey, you give it the name of the function that you want to have called on every single item. Okay, that's kind of cool. Array map does the loop for you. You don't have to rewrite that loop. It was written once in array map. If you ever have a loop where all you're doing is applying a function to everything in the collection, call array map. This idea of mapping a function over an array or over a list is actually general in many languages. Java 8 has it with its streams library. Higher order function, any language that supports higher order functions is going to have a function called map or something equivalent to it. PHP even has it. Oh my goodness. Old PHP, as on our PHP server, you don't actually pass the function, you pass the name of the function. You pass a string and it's, yeah, okay. In more recent versions of PHP, you can go ahead and just pass the function itself. I don't need quotes. I can say, hey, the function strip slashes, I want to give you the function. I want to pass that function off to ArrayMap. And then ArrayMap will say, hey, you gave me something and it's a function. I can go ahead and give things to that function. Okay, so hopefully if you call this, you don't need to put that in quotes. You could even define a function in line right there. You could say function of $X, blah, 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 and that would work. Okay, so we'll come back to more about ArrayMap in a second, perhaps. Or perhaps not. Okay, so this makes more sense to have up at the top of your program, the top of any program you write that uses post. Hey, Apache, if you were adding quotes, let's go remove them from post. So the stuff in post is the data that was actually provided. I know to sanitize. You don't need to tell me that. Okay. One problem. What if the stuff inside post is not all strings? Okay. In particular, what if they're numbers and you call strip slashes on something that's a number? PHP's slippery types. It will convert the number to a string, then call strip slashes on it, and you'll end up having a string in there. Now, in the post array, we never have numbers come in. Okay. Post array, all the values are strings. All the keys and values are strings. They're taken out of that HTTP packet as characters, as strings. But in general, calling strip slashes on things that aren't strings ends up doing a conversion that you probably don't want. Even worse, what if the thing there's one example, I'm sorry, I misspoke a moment ago. There's one time even in the post array where the values aren't strings. And we've talked about this from about 1 or 2 videos back, can you remember? We had a way of make it so the stuff inside post was not just a single string, but an entire array. Yeah, we liked the fact that we could group things and nest groupings and make sub-arrays inside post. And that's awesome, that's the right thing to do. If you call strip slashes on an array, it actually triggers an error and your program dies. Okay, so, okay, well, no problem. I've provided you a solution, okay? I wrote a function called strip slashes deep. It's just like strip slashes, except it recurs if you have an array that contains strings, it does all strip slashes. It doesn't call strip slashes on any numbers or non-strings. And if it finds an array, it will recur down into that array and strip slashes deep from that array. And inside there, if it finds another subarray, it will recur into that and all the way down. So if you want to go ahead and grab strip slashes deep, you can go ahead and then put these 2 lines in your scripts. I recommend doing that. If you don't, your forms won't work if somebody types in a quote character, because that's what will trigger the call to strip slashes, or any backslashes that the user had provided as input. Now, if you want to say, hey, if the user typed in a quote mark or a backslash, well then F them, my code is going to do something different, well then don't do this. Okay, let me just finish up by looking at that code for strip slashes deep. Okay, so again, strip slashes deep, we're going to look at this. If you want to use this, by the way, I have, CC license here, feel free to use it. But as with anything, any snippet you get off the web, especially if it's not the core part of the homework, is like, hey, I'm just doing this extra little thing so that users can provide tick marks. Yeah, cite your source. Give a URL. That's all I'm really asking. In my code, you should do that for anything you get off the web. Side note, if somebody publishes things on the web, can you go ahead and grab their code without their permission? No. They have copyright on it, and you do not have the right to copy that information. Yeah, unless they grant it to you somehow. Now, I admit, in real life, if somebody posts something on the web, you sort of expect other people are going to snag it. But, just so you know, legally, you do not have copyright on something unless the owner gives you copyright. So, if you put code on the web and you want other people to use it, put a little copyright notice on it, or lack of copyright. Tell people exactly what they can do, and you can look at the Creative Commons for licenses there. Anyway, okay. Here is strip slashes deep. Let's just look at this code real quick. because it's pretty dang easy. And if you've had me for another class like programming languages, you're going to recognize this as doing a case analysis on my input. I take in any type of value, okay? Any type of value at all. If it's a string, go ahead and return strip slashes, okay? We're actually using this ternary operation, return, and then a ternary operator. Here's a condition right here. If that condition is true, this is the answer, and that's what gets returned. Otherwise, else, and now I have another nested ternary operator here. So I'm nesting all my ternary operators. I'm indenting it the way that makes more moral sense, even though it's not indented the way PHP parses this. It thinks all these things are truly nested, all these ternary operators. All these. It's basically an if-else-if. So if-else-if, a case statement, if you will. Okay. In the case we have a string, call strips, return strip slashes. If we have an array, we're going to go ahead and call array map, and we're going to call strip slashes deep on every member of that array. Okay. Well, let's come back to talk about array map keys vals, but otherwise, else, this is going to be a true, it's like my default statement. Again, I'm jimmying this if-else-if statement here. I don't want to write if-else-if. It took too many extra words and curly brackets and vertical space the way I add vertical space, so I have this here. Anyway, otherwise, just return the value. So if you gave me a number, strip slashes deep doesn't do it. It just returns that number. If you give me a string, I strip slashes on it. If you give me an array, I'm going to give you back a new array where I've called strip slashes deep on everything in the array. That's the entire function right there. Okay. The one last thing to know is that, hey, array map, turns out, I just have a slight, this would work with array map, except that if any of the keys, there's keys and values, right? If any of the keys also have slashes, I want to strip those slashes. Slashes got introduced there by the PHP server, and I want to strip them out. So array map only goes on the values and gives me back a new array with the values, and actually it loses the original keys. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't lose the original keys. We can try that out in a moment. And I'll do that as a final example. But anyway, so I made my own function, array map, except it calls array map, it applies a function not to every value, but to every key and every value. And so here's my function, array map keys vals. And now you can see if you didn't have array map built in, this is the loop you would have to write whenever you wanted to do that. And it's awfully dang straightforward. Make an empty array for everything in the array, every key and value in the array. Go ahead and take that value, call the function on it, and assign it back into result. Result whose index is the key, or in my case, the key with strip slashes or some function called on it. Okay? And then return that resulting array. That's what array map does. You can write yourself, nothing mysterious about array map. The cool part about array map is you pass in a function. And that's a really good paradigm to know. JavaScript does this all the time. In fact, if you're using jQuery? jQuery uses higher order functions all the time, left and right. Whether you realize, most people don't even realize it's happening. $sign is a big fancy function that takes in other functions as input. Okay, so let me just finish up by looking at, again, I want to talk about array map because that's useful in itself. Forget all the stuff about magic quotes. Array map is a really useful concept. It's again, in lots of other languages as well, often called map. In Java 8 and beyond, the streams library has a map method. Not to be confused with java.util.map. This is something like java.concurrent.streams.map or something like that, but oh well. So let me just do a little php-a here and give an example. I'm going to go ahead and define a function. Function add 99. Takes in a number n and returns n plus 99. Okay, pretty simple function add 99 of 7, and oops, if I echo it, I got 106. Okay. So yeah, array map. I'm going to pass it add 99. I'm running on this is PHP running on my computer here, which is actually a newer version of PHP, so I can just pass it add 99. That's the interesting part here. I'm passing a function, okay? I'm not passing a number or a string. I'm passing a function object as one of my inputs. And the other object I'll pass in as an array containing 8 and 2 and negative 99, okay? And this gives me back, bar dump. Now we're spanning across multiple lines. And we can see that, yeah, I get back an array that contains 3 elements. It contains 107 and 101 and 0. The little thing I was wondering just now as I was talking is, hey, what if, how does array map work if some of these had keys? So 8 gets mapped to 8. And dos gets mapped to 2, and my Spanish is not good enough to know what negative 99 is. So I'll just leave it like that. And my question is array map going to give back an array just with the numbers, or will it keep the same keys that were there? And still keeps the same keys. So good. 8 now maps to 107. This is a new array coming back. The one thing to mention is this didn't change the original array. The original array is still there. This returns a new array. Okay, so it's copied the array and made a new array. The original array is still there. If I'd had a variable referring to that original array, I could still get those values out of it, the original values. Okay, 8 is 107, dos is 101, and 0 maps to 0. So that's interesting. The numeric indices were not preserved. Okay, I hadn't thought about that, hadn't realized it, but good to know. Okay, so summary. If you're working with old PHP servers or code that might run on old PHP servers that have this weird, that might be configured to add these magic quotes, which is the wrong thing for the server to do. They're solving the sanitization problem at the wrong place and goofing up lots of other things. But if you want to have your codes that do that, go ahead and call strip slashes on your input when you grab them out of post. You might even process the entire post array. And going back, I suggest, this is what I do in my code. So now that I've written strip slashes deep, I go ahead and, maybe I'll put strip slashes deep into my utils function because it's an awfully handy function to have, strip slashes deep. And then, now that I think about it, oh gosh, the function that I really should write is array map deep. Maybe not, I don't know. Anyway, but there we are. And then I have this one line at the top of my code. That's one thing to know. A bigger, better concept to actually learn is, hey, the idea of calling array map. Loops are used, there's many different types of loops, but about 30% of all loops happen to be doing a map operation, applying a function to everything in the array. Yeah, don't write that loop. We'll abstract over it and call map, and now it's easier to write, and it's easier for other people to read that code. Another programmer looking at it doesn't have to say, okay, they're setting up a loop, they're initializing this, they're looping over every value, and oh yeah, they're doing a map. They can just see array map, and they know right away exactly what you're doing. So just better, cleaner code. It's shorter and better. Win-win. Okay, take care. Oops. Need to fade out with the music, right? Yeah.